Welcome to Transplants, a podcast featuring conversations with women thriving in new roots abroad. I'm your host, Laura Perucci, a Brazilian journalist calling NYC home for over a decade. Each episode, we unpack the transitions, culture shocks, setbacks, and joys of starting a new life in another country, so you can learn from their insights and make your own bold move. Because I truly believe real stories are the strongest way to spark real growth. Hi, and welcome back. On today's episode, my guest is Celia Alves. In 2012, Celia was living in Portugal. She was a math teacher. She had a stable life, 2 kids at school. Everything was fine. And 2 years later, Celia was in Canada dealing with a deadline to leave the country, with her immigration status collapsing and no real plan B. But because moving back to Portugal was not an option to Celia and her husband, Celia went all in on a study permit. She started from scratch in a new field and rebuilt everything. And the way she rebuilt her career is such a great story. While she was taking some freelance jobs to help to support her family, she shaped her Excel skills. Yes, Excel, that program from Microsoft. And she became an Excel specialist and a community leader, something that later landed her a job. In this conversation, we talk about the real cost of immigration, the fear, the paperwork, and the setbacks, but also about the small wins that make you think, okay, we're gonna be fine. So let's hear Celia's transplant story. So hi, Celia. Thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Thank you, Laura, for having me, for the invitation. It's a great pleasure to be here with you.
Let's get back in time. It was 2012. Before moving to Canada, you were a 40-year-old math teacher in Portugal. Tell us how life looked like back then and where did you live in Portugal?
So I used to live in a city called Leiria, which is center of Portugal, 120 kilometers north from Lisbon. Like you said, I was a mathematics teacher in high school. I was married there then. I'm still married. My husband had a business for gardening and landscaping and irrigation. And we had 2 kids from our marriage and 2 other kids from his first marriage. Our kids were 7 and 4 around that time, a boy and a girl. I had a very busy life as a teacher. It was a very demanding job.
You're like a public school teacher?
Yes, a public school teacher. So the system in Portugal is there's the government board for teachers, permanent positions. And then there's a number of other spots that open every year depending on the demand. And I had been a teacher on the board since my first year as a teacher after graduating. Yeah, so I had a comfortable life in the sense that I didn't have to worry every year where I was going to work next year. Life in school was very demanding. I was assigned a number of different responsibilities at school that just put pressure. I was teaching at high school that was in charge of delivery of sending teachers to teach at the prisons. There were 2 prisons there in that town. And I was teaching in one of the years in the 2 of those in the 2 prisons, and then the rest of the other years just for one of them. It was extra stress doing that job, not only for the audience, that is a different audience from regular teenage kids. These were just young adult men. Also the fact that I had to travel during the day from high school, where I had a couple of classes, to the prison establishment it was quite close, but it was tiring. We got to a point where a number of things happened. There was this major economical crisis back in 2011, 12. It started with Greece and then with Portugal. A lot of businesses start to close. My husband's had to close his business, or started to consider closing it at that time. School was very demanding for me. I was just reaching a point of burnout. My brother was the one coming up with the idea of moving abroad. I had never considered that until that time. It was never something. I was never a person with plans to go live somewhere else. No, it had never occurred to me.
So you've been working your entire life as a math teacher, right?
Yes, I had
Since
almost
you
20
graduated.
years, almost 20 years of practice then.
Okay. And your husband had this business, and there is this economic crisis in Europe, and your brother was the one that brought the idea, like, to move abroad. You never had this desire. So I was actually gonna ask you, why Canada? Or maybe now that you were explaining more, I guess it was because of like the economic situation in Europe at that time that you didn't consider other European countries, because that would be so much easier, right,
Yes,
for you guys.
definitely. So before that, I just want to say that I had never had the desire of moving abroad, but I had been saying for a couple of years, the last 2 or 3 years as a teacher, I don't want to keep doing this. I mean, there were a couple of demands to teachers that I don't think they were fair. My colleagues just would look at me like, where are you going then? But I was just, I don't know. I just thought I need to find something else. So despite not having this desire of moving to another country, I did have this desire of changing the situation, professional situation where I was at that time. I can't remember the exact details, but at some point, one of my friends, she had born in Australia, moved to Portugal. Her parents were Portuguese. We met at university, and then after a few years, she decided to go back to Australia, and it was around this time, and she came up with a suggestion of or a tip about a job fair that was happening in London, UK, every year or a couple of times every year, dedicated to immigration. Mostly Canada, New Zealand, and Australia were the main countries that the fair focused on. And so we just decided to go there. My brother was was the most interested in finding something there. We thought, well, I have a degree in mathematics and a master's degree in mathematics. Certainly we will find something. We talked to different people, and there didn't seem to be a direct offer for someone with my skills. So it was necessary, although I have all these degrees, it was not skill on demand in those countries at that time. We met a guy from one of the immigration agencies in Canada. He noticed that my husband had a truck driver's license. There's a big demand for truck drivers in Alberta, in Canada. If you want, I can find you a position there. That's how we ended up coming to Canada. So we started to explore that opportunity there with that immigration agency.
So that was basically how everything started. And I'm wondering, did you guys speak English?
Both of us had basics of English and French. Mostly English, because on a daily basis we listen to English, right? On the movies, the TV shows get subtitles in English in Portugal. They are not, most of them are not doubled. So we are used to listening to English. We hired a teacher there for a while to help us prepare for the English exams that we had to take as part of the immigration process. We got enough score good enough to move on with the immigration application.
Yeah. And Celia, I was wondering, how did you guys see the North American countries, like especially the United States and Canada? And I say this because back in Brazil, in South America, we see European countries and North America countries as the places to be, the places to move to, the places where life it's better. So I'm wondering, how was your perspective as an European citizen about these countries, especially Canada?
Like I said, I had never planned to go abroad, so I was not even exploring it much. But then when we started to consider this, and I started to research a little bit about Canada, life in Canada, it seemed a place where things would always go right. There was opportunity. People were respectful. There was this highlight about the weather. It's very cold on the winters, something that we don't have snow except on very rare occasions in Portugal. I'm not sure what to tell you, because you will understand as we talk more that we did not plan much. We just made the decision.
Right.
Yes, we want to move out of here. Canada has an opportunity for us. It's feasible. It seems safe enough from what we've researched. So let's do it. We were not considering and doing too many calculations. And I'm not sure if this is the right approach, but that's what happened.
How was that for your kids? Because they're little, but not too little. But they were at the point that I can imagine they already have like little friends at school. They're used to their routines. I never moved when I was a kid, but I can imagine that it can be tough for them because they don't understand.
I think the first move, they took it pretty lightly. The first move being from Portugal to Canada in Alberta, Edmonton. They were just kids, so they just would go wherever we would take them. My son, the oldest, did seem to express a little bit more of concern and missing his family. My daughter, she was 4, completed 5 right after we arrived. She seemed more playful and more at ease. So we arrived in the summer, and then when school started, it was a bigger challenge for her. She's very shy and very concerned about what people say about her. So she doesn't want to make any mistakes, to say anything wrong or anything like that. It took her a while to feel confident enough to start speaking English. We were very lucky with the place where we ended up living in and the school that belonged to that area where my kids ended up going to. So she didn't know any English. She only knew a couple of color names, animals, a couple of objects, so she couldn't make a conversation. I built her a little dictionary with images that was supposed for her to use to help her express, oh, I'm hot, I'm hungry, I need to go to the washroom. That had a picture so that she could identify what that meant, and then had the sentence in Portuguese and the sentence in English. She could not read it, Portuguese or English, but she could recognize the image, and then if she would show that to the teacher would know. She went to kindergarten, and the teacher came to me and said, this girl doesn't speak. I don't know what to do with her because she does not talk. So the teacher took the initiative to talk to a friend, a Portuguese friend she had, and invite this friend to come and do some volunteering work hours at the school every week just to support my child. When she first came and started to talk to my daughter in Portuguese, she all of a sudden she smiled and she started talking and talking and talking. So, oh, the girl can talk. And then she understood, oh, she does know some words, she knows the colors, she knows. So this was September, October. All of a sudden, after Christmas, she just came back to school speaking English. For my son, we started teaching him English with Duolingo back in Portugal. And also in school, they had a little bit of English in elementary school already. He could understand some sentences, but also very basic. He could not really make a conversation. But his teacher came up with the idea, the school had a couple of iPads, and she brought one to her class and gave it to him, and he could use the translation to communicate with her. This gave him a lot of independence. Now he didn't need to wait for her to have time to explain him an assignment. So it was, I guess, challenging for all of us, and each one of us had their own challenges and their own fights to go through.
I know that you guys had some issues, and you have to tell us this story. I guess it was like not even 2 years after you moved to Canada, then everything was settled. Your kids were settled, speaking English. You guys were not planning to move back. and you had like a huge setback and everything started to fall apart. I want to know the story, and also like if you could like briefly explain what kind of visa, then we can
To
understand what
Canada.
happened
Yeah.
after. Yeah.
So we came with a temporary work permit for my husband based on that truck driver opportunity, right? He was offered temporary work permit for 2 years. Alberta, because of the great need they had for truck drivers, they were offering an open work permit to spouses. So usually when someone comes on a temporary work permit, the spouse is only given a visitor permit. So they can come, they can join the spouse, but they cannot work. But in that particular program, I was given an open work permit, meaning I could work anywhere as long as I got a job offer. Or my husband was tied to that particular company based on the permit that was specific for that job. In 2014, there was this major crisis as well with the oil price that just went down very quickly from $100 a barrel to $50 and probably even less. The province where we were living was Alberta, which is a province with oil in Canada. All of a sudden, a lot of those oil companies started to lay off people. A great deal of the work that my husband was doing was to drive north to those big oil plants, transporting groceries and transporting all types of goods. When these companies started to shut down or to reduce their workforce, then the demand for that type of job, for that type of work, reduced drastically. When it was time for us to renew our work permit, immigration rules had changed completely. So the province said, we are not going to offer temporary work permits anymore. My husband's company was not allowed to renew his contract, although they wanted to keep him. They were not allowed to renew his contract. We applied to renew it. They didn't accept his renewal, even with the company submitting all the documents and whatnot. And also my open work permit, that program that was offering the spouses open work permits, was also canceled. So we already knew that if we were lucky enough to stay, I would not be able to work. The immigration agency that we were working on with, they looked for different ways of solving this. They couldn't. But one thing that happened was that they could have been open with us about other possibilities, like the study work permit that I ended up using after this. I think they just assumed that we wouldn't have enough money to pursue that route. They kept insisting on trying to find a solution for that particular scenario. We were denied, and we received these letters saying you have 3 months to either leave or just apply for something else, another program. And
how was your reaction when you got that letter?
Oh, it was devastating. It was. At this time, I was working for the government of Alberta. I got a job as administrative assistant. I had been working there for 10 months, I think. I had a great job, and all of a sudden, everything went down the drain. I mean, my husband could not work. I could not work. From the moment I was without a permit, I had to leave. There was even a mistake from the immigration that told us that my kids could not attend school either. So we had to pull the kids out of school. And all of a sudden, we were the 4 of us at home without anything to do at all.
Some things in immigration are so unfair because like you build a life and then someone gets to decide if you leave or you stay. I know that it has been a while, but I'm wondering if you could share a little bit on what are the conversations that your husband had at that time. What did you think about doing it? If like giving up was an option, because like the clock is ticking and you need to come up with a solution. So how was that? Besides the fact that it was devastating, but how did you cope?
So when I came to Canada and left my job as a teacher, there was this opportunity of living with a special leave that allows you to just be absent, be away for a while, and they still keep your spot. And after these 2 years, around this exact same time, when we were trying to decide what to do, my school called and said, "You need to decide whether or not you are coming back."
Like last call.
Yes.
Right at that time.
Right at that time. So it would have been, and in Portugal, we sold everything except for our apartment that is being rented there. It would have been relatively easy and simple to say, okay, let's move back. But none of us wanted to go back. I didn't want to go back to the same thing, same old, same thing, same problems, same challenges with the school, same. My kids, I mean, they had just started to adapt. And my husband, he was not happy with the truck driving work because it's a very tough work, very demanding. He was away. It was a long haul type of driving. So he was away from us the entire week. But he was not also wanting to move back. We had this plan that we would stay, and after 2 years, we should be able to apply for a permanent residency and stay without issues. And then from there, he could find another job after we were more established with a permanent residency. We decided that we didn't want to go back. And once again, that we would take this leap of faith. There were no obvious solutions for us at that time. I started to investigate during these 3 months that we were given. During this time, we could not work. And anyways, so I started to investigate all the immigration possibilities for us. The only program that would grant us a way to stay was for me to apply to study permit. I already had a degree, a licentiate degree, and a master's degree from Portugal. I applied to school again. I went there with a list of things that I wouldn't mind studying. The only option available was something that I was not interested at all at that time, which was business administration. And I said, well, if that's the only option, it just makes it easy for me to decide.
It is what it is.
It ended up being very helpful for me later, having this understanding of how accounting works in Canada, how finance works, how marketing works, and all these types of things. So if we were going to put things on a spreadsheet and calculate the risk, we would have gone back. That was the reasonable thing to do, but we didn't want to. So we were stubborn and said, well, we'll find a way. So I applied for the study permit. In total, from the time that we were denied the renewal of the work permit, the temporary work permit, it took 6 months. So we were without being able to work for 6 months.
And without knowing what's going to happen, right?
Without
because
knowing what's going to happen.
That literally kills you with anxiety because you
Absolutely.
have no answer.
No, I'm not sure if it is regret, but it damages me the most inside is all that time I was so worried about what's going to happen next and constantly calculating in my mind all the strategy, analyzing all the immigration programs and options and what can happen if we do this, what can happen if we go that way, that I was not present for my kids the way I wanted to be. So it was really just this fight or flight mode for long months. That's what was heavy for us at that time, and still is. When you see, I get emotional when I think of those times.
I know. I guess every immigrant can relate to what you went through. It's like not having an answer and not being. I mean, we are not in control of life, but it's unfair. It's so unfair. And because you are taking a leap of faith and you want to stay and you're trying everything you can, and even though you have no control over the outcome.
Yeah, and something people need to know. I don't know how it is in other countries, but definitely something people considering immigrating need to know is that immigration rules change all the time. At least in Canada, that's how it goes. I mean,
Homie,
what
are
is
you listening what is happening right now here with all the immigration as well?
yeah? If someone is considering to immigrate, and there's a program that is a good fit for what that person wants and what they need, just go for it. Don't wait too much time considering everything. Just start the application, because even if you get applied and then you change your mind, you can simply not go. But if you are waiting for everything to be perfect to then start the application, by the time you decide, rules may have changed. All of a sudden, that program that could grant you a job position there no longer is open or available. We went through all different types of, so then I went to this, we got this study permit. My husband, as the spouse, got an open work permit. He went back to his company. They wanted him hire him back, but the economy was so bad at this time in Alberta that he had to call every day to ask if he would have work that day or not. So it was a day-by-day type of thing.
Wow.
That could not work. I was now going to university, paying international student fees, which is triple of what a Canadian pays for the same program. So it was very expensive. He ended up asking the company to transfer him to Ontario, where we are living now. So he moved here as a way of having daily work for him, because now we would only have his income, and it would have to pay for our living plus student international tuition fees. Rough again. He came to Ontario. I stayed behind with the kids, went to school. I was allowed to work up to 20 hours per week during school time, and full time, so the 40 hours per week during school breaks. The first semester I did not work because I wasn't sure if I could take care of the kids, go to school full time, and also work. But then the second semester I got a job.
And at this time you were already living in Ontario?
No, I was still in Alberta by myself.
When you moved to Ontario, were you able to transfer your study, your school, or something like that?
So we kept staying behind in Alberta because I was studying and I needed to honor my study permit. Immigration checks with schools if students are really attending school. We have this temporary permit, me studying, my husband working here, but the plan was to get permanent residency. I found out that Ontario opened the program at that time that said, if you express your willingness to move to Ontario, we can give you this province nomination, which is a nomination from the province saying we want this person to come live here. And this was important because, once again, at this point, the immigration program changed completely. They opened this thing based on points. The way it works is, whereas before anyone could apply for permanent residency, when we came, anyone could apply for permanent residency once they have met all the requirements. Now they said, we have too many applications. We can look at all these applications. So here's the new way. Every 2 weeks, we are going to say, those who have these many points at least and meet a requirement regarding a job demand, for example, are invited to apply to permanent residency. I was over 40. My husband is 6 years older than me. We were not getting enough points to get invited for applying. And the only way to get extra points was to either get a job offer from a company, but the companies they need to prove a bunch of things. They need to prove that they could not find anyone else that is already a citizen or permanent resident, or we could use this nomination, a province nomination, to get enough points extra to qualify. So when I learned that, I went on my profile there on the immigration platform and put a check mark. Yes, we want to move to Ontario. It was easy for us to justify that because my husband was already living and working here. Right after I did that, I did get the invitation to apply for the province nomination program. I applied. After a couple of months, I got that nomination. After I got enough points, I was invited to apply for permanent residency. At this point, we said, okay, let's just move on to Ontario. I will transfer to university there. But at this point, also, we have been apart too long. It was 18 months at this point. Let's just move back together. And I got a transfer to college here. So we moved during the summer, and during that summer, we also got finally the answer that we were permanent residents at this point.
Thank God.
Yes. So at this point, I left school. I didn't have to go to this second school. I was taking only enough courses to be considered full-time student, to be eligible to work the 20 hours per week. So
oh my God.
You see what I mean? When I was saying that I was not present for my kids, I was juggling with all these variables and all these conditions.
You had a lot on your plate.
And what can I do now? What's going to happen?
And I didn't know that you guys were living separately for a while. But you were studying, you were working half time, you were away from your husband. So you have to take care of all these things by yourself. Also dealing with all this immigration stuff, which is like, if you are listening and you never deal with that, lucky you, because
stay where you are.
It's so time consuming. It's like another job. What were you telling yourself in the days that you felt like I cannot do this anymore? How you kept going?
It was all a matter, and it's easy to say now, putting one foot in front of the other. There's an expression I heard from a Brazilian guy a while ago that was something like, I would, it even gets me emotional. I would put the foot ahead and God would place the floor beneath it. Just move on, one step after the other. I remember one time when this first, let me just grab a tissue.
Yeah.
I remember one time when this first thing happened with us getting denied the renewal of the permit. Someone got us a lawyer friend that we could speak to and try to understand what our options were. And we gave him a paper sheet with a number of things facts that we thought were relevant for him to know. And after a while, when he realized that we may not have the money to pay his fees, the fees that he wanted to charge us, he just gave us the paper back and said, "I'm not going to be able to help you."
That's so devastating.
I went home and all I could do was go to bed and sleep. This was my strategy and still is sometimes to deal with stress. For me, it works like that. If I go and sleep for a while, I just gives my brain time to just recover and to get new thoughts and get new energy, and
like taking a little step back and get the full picture and like it's like when you are drowning in the water and you go to the surface and you get some air, right? So
absolutely. There were days where we were just busy dealing with whatever we needed to deal with kids and school and jobs and work and surviving. In immigration and many other things in life, when you want to do something, you cannot be waiting to, although we do that, we take the step, we make a decision when we think we have everything under control, and that we have all the way figured out, and we have all the process figured out. But then life just happens in so many ways. It could be something personal, it could be something related to the immigration process. Things happen, and so then you need to deal with it. So if the program that someone is applying to seems too overwhelming, but the person is still interested in trying this for their lives, just know that you need to take one step at a time. Do not worry too much. At least that this was my strategy. I cannot advise people not to worry or not to plan. But this was what worked for me. was to deal with what I had to deal with at that time. Be prepared for what was coming next, or what I thought was coming next, as much as possible. But over time, I learned that we are never prepared for everything. Some things will happen. So
Yeah, I guess like listening to your story, I came to two conclusions about like the immigration process. I guess one, it's of course you can consult with people that are the experts, like you guys did with the agency that was supporting you. But at some point, they didn't even offer you other options. I would say like make sure to do your own research and
Yes.
be your own advocate. And the second thing
absolutely.
is you have to be tough. You have to be prepared because resilient. Yeah, because you have to deal with all these things of it's a change of life. You have to adapt, like cultural things, climate, kids. But on top of that, you have to be mentally prepared for the storms that can come. And sometimes you're not going to be able to face that. So taking a little step back like you did can give you some strength to keep going. So I guess now we can move to the other part of your story that is so interesting that I know it was not easy, but I was reading everything. I was like, this is such a butterfly effect, every little thing that happened. Tell us about the bookkeeping job, because that's a great story. And I could always say that is the fake it until you make it, but it's not, because you literally thought that. Okay, tell us. I'm not going to give any spoilers.
So during this time where we could not work, we had help from the community. We were so lucky for being in a small community there in Edmonton. We received help, monetary help and food and all types of help from the community. It's just, we were so lucky for being there. If we had been in Toronto, I don't think that would have happened. And during this time, I was looking for ways of making some extra money. We were not authorized to work, to have a job in Canada. Maybe I can do something online. I discovered freelance platforms and
like Upwork?
Upwork, exactly the one I joined. Because I did not have any experience on my profile, nobody was hiring me. So the way it works is companies or people who need a task done, a job done, post in the platform, and that freelancers, they apply. At some point, I saw one that said, can you do this in Excel? I was pretty convinced. I knew Excel. I had gone to a workshop on my first year as a teacher, learned a couple of functions, learned how to build a chart, and went through my almost 20 years of career as a teacher using those skills. Thought I was like a real expert. Yeah, I should be able to do this. I had just learned one function at that time, that VLOOKUP is a famous function for those who work with Excel, that I thought could solve the problem for that job, that task on Upwork. The guy said, can you do this in Excel? Explain the situation. I can do this with Excel. I wrote the guy and said, I'm going to make you, to offer you a $5 per hour for my work, in exchange of a good review from you after my work is done, if you like what I've done. He gave me the job, and after a little bit of looking at what I needed to do, I realized that the way I thought I would solve it, I could not solve it, was I would have to nest 36 VLOOKUPs inside of each other. That's not feasible. For one, I told the guy, it's not going to be as fast as I thought it would be. Are you okay with that? Yeah, that's okay. I'm not in a hurry, so take your time. I'm not in a rush. I started to go online and discover there were all these forums where people answer Excel questions for free. They just give people help. And
good for you.
Yes. And I started to discover YouTube channels about Excel. Started to follow a couple of them. In fact, I became quite obsessive about not missing a video. Even if I could not understand all, I was listening. And by doing this, I started to realize the potential of Excel and what it offers. And I started to learn how to program with VBA, which is a programming language inside Excel that allows us to automate things in Excel. So I ended up completing the work successfully for this guy. He gave me a great review. this was during this time where I could not have a job in Canada. But with that experience, when I was during the study permit, someone introduced me to this lady who owns bookkeeping company. So she called me for an interview, and that's when the Excel topic came up. I told her that I knew Excel. She liked the review very much, and she hired me. On the first week or so, she said, "Here's what we already have." So she had already a bunch of different files in Excel, had been prepared by an Excel expert a couple of years ago. She was using this to run the company, but the files were still not talking to each other. And she said, "Here's what we already have, and this is what I want you to do." Just automate what is missing. She explained what she wanted. I said, "Okay." And then I looked at those files, and what the hell is this? What the heck is this? I did not know many of the functions I was seeing there. I grabbed the files, brought them home. Every morning around 4 a.m., I would wake up to get some time to work on that. I ended up buying a course with money that I did not have. I don't know where I found that money, but I just decided I need to get a course because otherwise I will never get all these pieces together from different videos.
I know that you were struggling with the Excel, but it sounds to me that you were kind of like feeling challenging as well. Like you're liking that, right? You're liking to learn. You're
Yes.
finding yourself again in your field.
If there was a job paying to learn, that was my perfect job. It just makes me happy I think it was even a kind of a therapy for me at that time. Just learning how to work with this tool that is very in line with my type of brain, analytical, mathematical, solving problems. Yeah, so it was not a burden for me having to wake up so early. I would wake up before the kids who would have to wake up as well, to take that time for myself to just do a couple more sessions in the course. That ended up working at that time. After a while, I did what she wanted. She got me a couple of other projects. After 18 months, that coincided with the time when we moved to Ontario to join my husband. Around that time, a friend who learned about what I was doing, so he convinced his boss to hire me. The boss said, "Okay, we tried different things, different programs a couple of times. It never worked. I'm going to give you 2 weeks to show what you can do." And after a week, he was already convinced and kept me for about 18 months again. So here I was already in Ontario. When I moved here, the plan was to apply for a corporate job. But when we came here, I had that project in hand. It was keeping me busy full time. So I kept going just to help that company and get that project done. It was convenient because at this time, my kids were in elementary school. It would allow me to interrupt any time in the day to take them to school, pick them up from school. When I saw that, I was pretty much getting to the end of that type of work, because when things are automated, you're no longer needed. If it's well done, it just runs, right?
So you're basically working like in big projects with some time.
Yeah, I was
right?
working this project, and then I started to apply to other jobs again in Upwork, started to get other projects on the side. So that kept me busy for a while, a couple of years working as a consultant.
You basically fell in love with Excel, right?
Yes,
You
can
went
say
from
yes.
like, I
Absolutely.
don't know this, to being like this person that was just killing in this field, because companies were just like coming back. You heard about an Excel group from Brazil. You're so interested in the topic that you wanted to keep going. It's fascinating for me.
Yeah. So at this point, I was working from home in a city that we had moved in middle 2017. This was early 2019. And I started to get a little bit anxious from working from home all the time. So I was home all the time, and I felt the need of connecting to people. Knew a couple of
it
neighbors.
can be really isolating, right?
Yes. Well, the Brazilian thing and the group that you are talking about are two separate things. One was one of the YouTube channels from one of the big stars, Excel stars. This guy, Ozzy Soleil, he mentioned he had gone to present at a conference, Excel conference in Brazil. Well, how come I don't know about it? Because I have family in Brazil. It's a Portuguese speaking country.
Yeah.
So how come I don't know about it? So I went and started to search and discovered all this whole big community of Excel experts in Brazil who have YouTube channels and do run multiple initiatives. Started to connect with them, watch a lot of their videos. So I felt inspired by the way they connect to each other. At some point, I went and searched Excel events in my area, and I found a group about Power BI, which is not the same at all, but I thought, well,
It's like a
close enough.
competitor.
Another Microsoft tool dedicated
okay.
to reporting. It can do some of the things that Excel can do as well. So they have some overlapping, but they are also different tools that do different things
Okay.
from each other.
As you can notice, I don't know anything
That's
about
okay.
Excel. I'm from another field.
That's okay. So I thought, well, close enough. Let's go and let's attend this. I started to attend these groups meetings. They were running, I think, once a month or something like that, every now and then. At some point, I was being inspired about that Brazilian Excel community that I was in touch with at this point. I said, well, how come there's nothing for Excel? I wish there was something like this for Excel. And the guy just turned to me and said, why don't you create one then? Well, fair enough, I guess. Stop complaining, girls. I came home and I told my husband, I think I was just challenged to do this. I think I'm going to do it. Yes, he said, there you go again. You're just going to get more work for you to do. How come it's going to take you time? And I don't care. I think I would like to do this. I started with monthly sessions running at the back end of Microsoft Store at a mall here in Toronto. They had this little space, kind of workshop space behind the counter. And we were also not charging anyone to come in and just attend the session for free with us. I also applied to present at a conference about Excel in London. When I heard about that conference, I thought of my first teacher who was from London, and I reached out to him and said, would you be interested in presenting to this? He didn't reply. And at some point I thought, why don't you apply yourself? So I submitted an application. They accepted me to present there. This was before the pandemic. I also got invited by the organizers of a conference in Brazil called Excel Weekend to present there. I went there in January of 2020. I was accepted to present at the Global Excel Summit in London that was supposed to happen in April of 2020. It ended up then happening online in 2021, February, I believe. And so with all these things happening, and I was posting on LinkedIn about it, someone with the Microsoft MVP award reached out and said, I want to nominate you for this award at Microsoft. And it's given to people who contribute to the community for free in some way. So sharing knowledge related to Microsoft technologies. So I was nominated and got the award in July of 2020. Yeah, so that made me a little bit more noticeable, I think, in the Excel community. And the group kept growing. And with the pandemic, what happened was the group was about 200 members, I think. But now that we had to move online, I had to figure out, how do I run these sessions online? Now I had a global audience. So all of a sudden we could open these sessions to anyone in the world. The group is almost 6,000 members at this point.
Oh, wow.
And it's a free community. People just, all the work there is done for free from my end, from the presenters, and they offer that, their knowledge and that presentation for free, and people can join for free as well. Then we put the recordings on YouTube.
That's incredible. And also you mentioned that this is free, but I know that at some point you're using the Meetup platform and they're charging some money for the organizers at subscription fees. I don't remember. And you got connected to this company that you're working for right now,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. So
And you're missing that part.
yes. So now, yeah.
Let's just say this out loud. Your little group that started at the back of the Microsoft store landed you a job
Yes.
in the corporate world. That I'm sorry, I just forgot the name of the company, but you
Yeah,
can
Sheetcast.
explain.
Yeah.
Sheetcast. Yeah.
After working for a while for a couple of years, 8 years or so as a consultant, I started to get very depressed again for always being at home. At some point, I just found myself avoiding coming to my office to do the work that I love doing. And I realized I need a change. I cannot keep doing it like that because it's driving me crazy. So I started to apply to jobs. And I forgot to mention that I did try at some point after finishing those main projects I had. It's very difficult for a recruiter to understand my skills and my profile. Then I decided just keep staying home as a consultant because I had work coming to me anyways. And this time it was really a need to get out of the house. I started to apply. It was difficult again with recruiters, but at some point I got a job that was a perfect fit for my Excel skills. So I went to work for this transportation company. I stayed there for about just over a year, but after this time, I realized that the way the management worked was just not compatible with my values. And I started to apply again, but at this time, that meetup group that you were saying, you mentioned the platform, the sessions are for free, but there is a fee that I have been paying since the beginning to use the platform where people discover the group, people join the group, we send communications out to people, and they just almost doubled the price all of a sudden about a year ago. I'm not going to pay this much out of my pocket. I either shut this down once and for all, or I just find some sponsors. So I reached out to this company, Sheetcast. We had been in contact. They had reached out to me because of the meetup. They saw what I was doing, and I connected back to them and asked them if they were interested in sponsoring. They immediately said yes. This person asked me, how is your work going and how are you liking it? I said, well, the job is perfect for my skills, but I'm just not happy with the management side of it, and I'm actually looking for something else. And they came back a week later or so inviting me to work with them because they realized I could be a good fit with all the connections I have with the Excel community. So Sheetcast is a product for Excel that allows you to create web applications inside Excel. So out of Excel, you can create an application that works on the web. They invited me to work with them. It's been great. I'm learning new things again, so that makes me happy. I'm representing them in the Excel events where I was already presenting before. So it keeps me connected with the Excel community. It's interesting how things just kind of come around.
Yes, it was made for you, and that leads me to my next question. And I want to make you cry. I'm sorry for that. But you're in your 40s. You moved to Canada. You're a math teacher that was like burned out. And you guys went through so many things in your immigrant story that you already shared. And you ended up kind of like being responsible for the success of your family's immigrant story, because if you hadn't applied for a study visa, did you ever imagine your life returning to what is today? Like, you're a very successful professional in the Excel field, something that you discover like by chance because you thought you knew it and you didn't, but then you got obsessed with this topic. I know that sometimes I just sound like a broken record because I like to stress this. A lot of people, they feel that nothing in your life will change after your 40s or after your 50s. And here I am, I'm looking at you, and you have this amazing story. So how do you feel about all of this? If you give yourself enough credit, if you don't, it's time to do this like right now. Let's celebrate. But also, if you ever felt that way regarding age, regarding, because especially women, We have this expiration date in so many fields in our life, but you prove the opposite. You completely change your life, and you build this, like this Excel meetup that landed your job. It's amazing, and it's so inspiring to also other immigrant women that we can do things in another country. Starting this, I mean, it's incredible. Like, congrats, you're amazing.
Thank you. When I stop to think about it, it really scares me. It was heavy for me when I completed 40. Oh my God, I'm 40. What about now? Complete 50, which I am over 50 now. For example, immigration, when we were in this points system,
Yes.
trying to get enough points, part of the punctuation was related to age.
To age.
I would go check my profile, and every week I would get a point less and a point less or something like that. My points were diminishing as time was going by just because of my age. It's heavy. It kind of hits us and hits me, and it gets me worried for a little bit. But then inside, I don't feel like I am over 50. It feels like I'm just starting. Like if I have not had enough yet. The word retirement starts to come around. The fear of losing my job, or if I have to leave this job for some reason, not being able to find another job because of my age is a true concern, because we know that age does weight on recruiters and companies' decisions. And in the world where we are living, where technology is evolving so fast, it is a challenge for mature people to keep up with it, for everyone to keep up with it, really. So in a way, if I stop to think about it for some reason, it worries me. But on the other end, when I want to do something, I don't feel that I am old. I just do what I want to do and what it feels right for me to do. Age is a problem, can be a challenge when you are considering to immigrate, because of what the rules are around age for immigration programs. But it does not mean that you cannot still try and things. If you try, things can happen. If you don't try, then nothing happens, right?
When you started to create the meetup, when this guy got look at you and say, why you don't start this Excel community? Have you ever had that feeling of like, but who am I? Just like an outsider from Portugal, an immigrant. Is anybody gonna like pay attention to what I'm gonna do? Have you ever thought that? Because I know a lot of people have insecurities just for the simple fact of like, I'm not from this place, so I'm less, quote unquote, less than these people. Or you were so excited about this that you just like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And it didn't even cross your mind.
Yeah, so it was more like that. At this point, I had been in Canada for several years and understood that the community is composed of people from so many different backgrounds, coming from all over the world, from different places, different accents. And we just learned to live with it and just accepting that everybody's different. I am different. I just need to deal with it and just put myself out there. I did have challenge like that when I first created my YouTube channel. I created a YouTube channel about Excel. It took me a long time to get the courage to publish my first video because of my accent, because my grammar is not perfect in English. I was so afraid of what people would say. I just said, well, I just want to do it. So I'm going to do it. If nobody watches it, that's fine. Some of these videos are for myself anyways, so that I don't forget how to do certain things. I have a place to go back and remind myself how I did solve a certain problem if I come across the same thing again. So I have dealt with that at that time. And when it was before preparing the meetup group, around this time when I prepared the meetup group, I was integrated enough not to fear that.
I guess when we are surrounded by diversity, we feel more powerful and less intimidated to keep pursuing the things that we believe. To finish our interview, you've been through a lot during these years living in Canada. So what do you think that has changed in you as an individual going through all these setbacks? What have you learned?
I learned that I'm not in charge, not in control of everything in my life. I learned to be at ease with that instead of worrying too much about each and everything, trying to see ahead of time, trying to predict everything, trying to have a solution at hand for everything. I learned to accept that I'm not in control of everything. I can control what's happening now, how I deal with it. I can try to be prepared, but I need to accept that things just go the wrong way or a different way. Sometimes it's not the wrong way. Sometimes things really happen for better than I was expecting. So just learn how to be more patient with me, with myself and with other people and with what life throws at me.
Celia, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your story with us. It's really truly inspiring, and I guess it's going to inspire other women that are listening. Also, like, I was wondering if people want to connect with you, what's the best way?
If you look for Celia Alves Excel, you will find me on LinkedIn. You will find me on Instagram, or if you look for Solve and Excel, which is my consulting company name, you can also find my YouTube channel. But LinkedIn is probably the platform where I spend more time.
Okay, I'll make sure to include that in the description. So if you wanted to connect with Celia, if you are also like an Excel connoisseur and you love Excel, or if you want to like just send her a message, check the description below. Yeah, Celia, thank you so much for your time. And I'm glad that shout out to Ligia that introduced us.
Yes, Ligia is a warrior as well. She's a Brazilian living in New York. Thank you, Ligia, for introducing us. It was a great pleasure to meet you, Laura. Thank you for having me today. I hope it helps other people, other women around the world.
Okay, guys, we will talk again soon. Bye.
I really hope you guys enjoyed this conversation with Celia. Oh my God, it was such an emotional one. And it's such a big lesson, especially for us women that sometimes feel so lost when you're living abroad. I mean, Celia is such an inspiration. I was just like amazed by her story. Please don't forget to follow us on Spotify and rate our show. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video and share these stories with people that you think are gonna like this and be inspired by these incredible women. And if you know a woman living abroad with an amazing story, please reach out to me. Or if you have an amazing story living abroad, reach out to me. I'm always looking for new stories to feature here. Thank you so much for being here and listening to the show. Until next time, bye.